Okay, watazamaji wetu ambao mnatupata kupitia kwa social media platforms, basi muda mchache tutakuwa tunaungana naye mgeni ambaye tuko kwake, lakini sisi ndio wageni, lakini yeye naye ni mgeni katika studio yetu ambaye tumetengeneza kwake hapa. Kisiang'Ani akiingia kwa set huwa nakuja nimejihami hadi na fire extinguisher ambaye iko hapa chini ya kiti yake. Kwa hivyo very shortly tutakuwa tunaungana wenzetu huko TX tupate kwenda live na mahojiano ya moja kwa moja kuhusu ile ndoto ya rais wetu William Ruto ya kuweza kupeleka tueleza mengi wakati ambapo tutakuwa tunaanza. Kwa hivyo tunangoja tu muda mchache tupate kuingia live kwenye runinga. Naam, wapenda watazamaji, asante sana kwa kuzidi kutazama runinga yako ya Mwananchi ya Tandao TV Kenya, na tangu wiki jana tumekuwa tunaweka tangazo la kuashiria kwamba tutakuwa mshauri wa masuala ya kisiasa na kiuchumi wa Rais William Ruto, na bila shaka tuko hapa kwake Kamukuywa tukiwalea kisiasa na vile ya kimaendeleo ya serikali ya Rais Ruto. Kwa hivyo Profesa Edward Kisiang'Ani, tuko kwako hapa nyumbani. Sijui kama microphone yako iko sawa. Naam, iko sawa kabisa. Haya.
Because nashukuru katika harakati za Christmas bado.
Ndio.
Lakini ni baraka kubwa kupata wageni.
Ndio.
Jioni hii katika boma yangu.
Asante sana wasi wa Kisiang'Ani, na vile niwaeleza mapema, yeye ni mshauri mkuu wa masuala ya kiuchumi na kisiasa vile wa Rais William Ruto, na bila shaka hapo awali alikuwa anatueleza mengi kuhusu ajenda yake Rais William Ruto, ambaye vile anafuatilia mahojiano haya, na tusema asante sana Rais kwa kuweza kutupatia idhini ya kufika hapa, manake lazima utupatie telling people about the Singapore dream. Is President Ruto dreaming or telling us a reality? That is the topic of today. Can we start off? Maybe you tell us, why did the president come up with such a grand idea?
Thank you, Robert. I think, and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think the main thing you have to think about is those of us who have been privileged to work with him, we know that he looks at the bigger picture. He looks beyond hatujaweza kutumia vizuri. Sasa ndio unaona anaangalia vile tuko, anaona watu wengi tuna mafikra ya wastani.
Naambiwa kwamba sauti haitoki vizuri.
Bigger picture. Bigger picture yake ni kuangalia kwamba tuna uwezo fulani hapa Kenya, lakini huo uwezo hatujautumia. Kiongea mambo ya Singapore, in English, Singapore symbolizes what we want to do. It doesn't mean that we are going to but Singapore is an example of a country which was worse off than Kenya, but which is now many kilometers ahead of Kenya. In the 60s, and I would ask, because the conversation has begun, I would ask, how come, I'll just pose one question to you. How come Singapore had only, it's now 6 million people, sandwiched between Malaysia and Indonesia? You know that. Now, how come that this country in the 1960s had probably, could hardly register 1,000 against Kenya's 2 million? Tumekuwa tukilala wapi? So, a lot of people who are criticized the president will say, we are okay. How can you be okay? Country that was 100,000 visitors per year, but now the same country is 20 million, and you know that means money, wealth coming to a country. Then you say, you know what, we are okay. This hard, we would be probably 20 or even 30. So it's not a dream, it's a reality. So the other example, and that's why I'm saying it symbolizes, you ask your question, what is the per capita for Singapore? You would see that in the 60s, Singapore was just almost as poor as we are. Today, you look at the average $1,000 against Kenya's only 2.5. I mean, 2,500 US dollars. That against Kenya's 136. The economy of Singapore, as tiny as it is, Robert, is just about 4 times bigger than Kenya. These are the questions you keep asking. I'll fix this very little. Today it's about 40, which is commendable if you are thinking average.
Yes.
And President Ruto doesn't want us to think average. But Singapore's port is 600 million. It's making money. If we're handling only about 35 to 40, we are making less money. That's explanation. So these are questions. Because you started by asking me, is this a reality or a dream? President Ruto is practical. He thinks about things that can happen. And so he is thinking about us advancing the same way. We have lost time. If you look at the president's speech, he looks impatient. If you look at his face, he looks impatient because he thinks we have lost time. Because the countries which were not doing very well overtaken us and left us behind. And probably we are lucky because we have him. He has vision. He looks at about national issues and he has vision. If you are unlucky to have a bad president, some of this vision, we have capacity, we have the population, the greatest human resource that Kenya has, the greatest resource that Kenya has today is the human resource base. How is good? President Ruto is telling us average is bad.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we continue, naambiwa na watu wa technical huko kwamba kuna kitu ya kuaddress kidogo tu tukitangaza hii interview, alafu nitakuwa nafanya kitu hapo kidogo. Kuna wakubwa hapo nje, kuna kitu tunaweza endelea. Watazamaji ambao mnatupata, tengeneza maneno sasa, mnatupata vizuri sana na tunasema asante sana kwa mafundi wetu wa mitambo, bila shaka kurekebisha hiyo Naam watazamaji, basi tunazidi kuendelea na mahojiano haya na asante sana kwa kuweza wale ambao mlinotice haraka, and thank you very much my boss, sitakutaja jina kwa sasa, kwa kuweza anzia hapo.
Mimi nafikiri uliniuliza swali kwamba hii ni ndoto tu ya Rais Ruto kwamba tunataka kuwa Singapore ama the people who are born around the 60s, even the 50s are still alive.
Yeah.
But because they took ambitious plans and they took ambitious plans to change Singapore capacity to change Kenya. That is what he has been telling us. Capacity to change Kenya. That is what he has been telling us. And so how can we change Kenya? He has given us the change Kenya. He has given us this symbolism of Singapore, and what is it that was it just as small as it's tiny. It's tiny. Almost the same level as Kenya's. Today, Kenya with a population of about 56 million people is just 136 million people. Is just 136, which means the Kenyan economy is Robert 4 times 94 million shillings, US dollars, which is the wealth of a person in a year, in an annual. So what is this annual? So what is this gap? It shows that Singapore has rich people, Kenya has poor people. Now, Singapore has rich people, Kenya has poor people. Now, the leadership of this country is saying, let's change. We can get millionaires in this else. In terms of electricity, You know very well that Kenya in the 60s we were only doing about 300. Kenya in the 60s we were only doing about 300 megawatts. 300 to 400. Singapore was within that range also. 40,000 megawatts. To be an industrial country, you cannot operate with 2,000, 3,000 megawatts. You 10,000 megawatts. When President Ruto says we need to raise funds to invest in energy, to increase production of electricity, they say we are okay. Robert, the way we are, why is he disturbing us? These are some of the things that really worry me because we think average. So I've just given those examples to demonstrate that even because Singapore does not have enough land to do agriculture, we have an added advantage. Look, we were about 35 agriculture to our national GDP and national wealth in the 60s. Today we are only 22, about 22%. Why is it that Robert, we have lost even in the areas where we... So these figures are not figures that are cooked. The president understands where he was born here. He understands where we're coming from. And he thinks that we have capacity to change. Hii njia kupitia kwa teknolojia, lakini hatuna stima ya kutosha. Rais anasema tuongeze stima, tuwe na megawatt karibu 14,000. Watu wanasema hata hii. I think the president looks around and looks at the capacity, the people who have knowledge and skills. He thinks that if we can invest in this thinking, we can even overtake Singapore as in the 60s, and it has gone very far. He could also have chosen Korea. You know very well, these countries they call the Asian tigers in the 1960s had capacity. They were so poor. It has overtaken us in everything. So Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, all these countries were not very far from Kenya. Had a longer history. But the recent history of this country,
where Kenya was initially,
is that we were at the same level. We have wasted 60 years saying the march to Singapore is unstoppable.
Asante sana Profesa kuweza kuanzisha hiyo ngarambe. Unasema kwamba nampongeza sana Profesa kwa kuweza peana idhibati ya Singapore. Sasa nitakuomba ruhusa Profesa kuchukua break ingine fupi nipate kufechi maswali. Manake simu yenye maswali imetumwa iko hapo nje. Kwa hivyo lazima nipate kutransfer maswali.
Small houses, you see them at railways, Kenya at the railway headquarters, they are being demolished to build decent houses. Now today, Kenya is struggling to put up 1 million. A population of 56 million. Singapore is 100% good housing for the population. For the last 6 years, it moved from political power for the sake of promoting poverty. You know, one of the problems that we have in this country, Robert, many people glorify poverty. Some of the people who have worked in politics with the president that can give solutions. So when he empowers people, they say he's empowering people, and these people, we have no chance to cheat them. We have no chance to mislead them. All they want is control. Give me votes, control, but I cannot empower you because empowerment makes you smarter. So that's the difference between President Ruto and his colleagues in the political arena. As an instrument of control, Ruto wants to empower people as an instrument of what? Development.
Asante sana Profesa, na bila shaka Mtaalamu anaongeza kwamba I have some structural questions. William Ruto kuweka Kenya katika ile awamu ambayo Singapore, taifa la Singapore liko, na bila shaka mtakuwa mnaweza kutuma profesa maswali ambayo yametumwa na yule ambaye anasimamia masuala ya habari upande wa Rais William Ruto ambaye ni ndugu Emmanuel Tala. Tunarejea baada ya muda usio mrefu, lakini kwa sasa tupate mapumziko kidogo tu, hii profesa apate kunywa maji. Manake tunaendelea hapa na Profesa Edward Waswa Kisiang'ani, na vile ambayo mnafahamu ni kwamba yeye ni mshauri mkuu wa masuala ya kiuchumi wa Rais William Ruto. He's the senior advisor economic affairs na hata siasa. Huyu jamaa na imanya kweli kweli, ndiposa topic ambayo anaongelea leo ishapata kuungwa mkono na wale ambao wakubwa pale wanasema kwamba ameimudu vizuri sana na anaelezea Rais Ruto amekuwa anaweka Singapore kama development model for Kenya, lakini unaona kwamba Kenya bado we lack the political courage to enforce account. Na sasa unaona kwamba kuna tayari wale ambao unasema kwamba wanasema tuko sawa tu, tubaki hivyo. Mbona tuko katika hiyo hali? Kuna wale wanaona kuna shida ipate kuwa address, lakini kuna
hii nchi yetu imekuwa na shida nyingi sana. I have told you, time has come for us to tell Kenyan people that any leader who comes to, there are people who think, I speak from where I left, that the purpose of leadership is to control populations, not to help people to be self-reliant and to live a decent life. So there has to be a mindset addressing people from Western Kenya, my home area, watu wa mkoa Magharibi. Don't accept leaders who think poverty is a virtue. We go to elections. I think the population of Kenya should change their thinking. And it's through where we are talking. People in media, the reason why people come to serve is to provide a platform in politics for people to improve their quality of life. That is why it has been a bit difficult to introduce new things. When President Ruto came, and I'll tell you, to get houses like he has done, who have nothing to access health care, who have nothing to access cheap fertilizer, who have many people. I walked through the streets. I am in these villages, even in Western Kenya. The rich people were asking, kwa nini Ruto anawapatia watu nyumba na sisi anawapatia matibabu, wanakuja kwa hospitali kupaka hospitali matope ambayo sisi tunaenda kutibiwa. So there are certain things which are supposed to go to only a few people. Sense of entitlement and there is something, and I don't want to attack anybody. But I would like to tell you this.
Kabla hujataka mtu, Florence, songesha hiyo yellow box ikuje karibu huko. Starlink. Tunatumia Starlink na tungependa kupata a good internet connection. Tafadhali tusongeshe hiyo yellow box ikuje huku ndani. Ndiposa ipate kuwasiliana.
What President Ruto needs is to have in his company leaders who believe in his vision. People who, even when they are alone at night, I think in the new year, he probably, as he will go into the new year, the president will have to start considering, because I said he gets frustrated because sometimes he tells people about certain things and they don't follow. The Republic, that this is where we are going. If you have an interest in housing and you don't want the president to put up houses because you think he's denying you the power of President Ruto, is not meant for them. So he needs a leadership that also talks to his message, talks to the people about his message. It's not a virtue. Poverty should not be glorified. We must work to make this country rich. All of us. If we need water, everybody should get water. If we need good barabara, many people don't, because they have invested in average thinking, they have invested in instruments of control. They put more money in creating instruments of control of population. He's likely to get tougher in the new year on things like corruption and transparency. And he must get tougher because accompanying the leadership of the right thing. The president, many people who have benefited from the initiatives of President Ruto. Hata hapa mkoa wa Magharibi watu wameona tofauti. President, they want to tell the president, why are you, this is a free market. We want to sell fertilizer. We want to be agents to sell fertilizer. But this fertilizer, they buy fertilizer now. We are producing a food which we used to import from Malawi. They are the same people who want to import. So what the president needs to do, and I think he's doing it, is, and that's why I'm advocating for this transformation at leadership level. People who can go to ministries and say, the president doesn't want corruption. We want transparency. Maybe Kenya has reached a point where we need some check on our constitutional framework. The reason why I'm saying this is that it's up to the Kenyan people to do. If you look at the President Ruto, for the last 3 years, many of the things that he has been doing have been hampered by, and because the constitution allows people to go to the judiciary to seek reprieve, even on frivolous account, even things that are of public interest, you see that guys from doing that. What do we do? Do we continue entertaining these guys who want to fight the president's agenda morning and evening, and they have a name as who don't believe in the president's agenda? I think going forward, Robert, time has come for us to call a spade a spade. Certain powers to people, and it also extends certain rights to the people. I am a Democrat, but does democracy give you endless powers to do litigation and stop things that are good, you know, transporting patients to hospital because it is not in their interest? So these are the problems that we're having. So we need a national conversation. I am recommending that we have. You saw the other day we want the sovereign fund, we want the infrastructure fund. This Singapore set up the infrastructure fund. You cannot build roads in Africa is because these are savings of private people. And they have kept that money, then they ask government, look for us business in Africa to build roads and stadiums. When the president said, let's ask.
Mahakama haswa ndiyo imechangia pakubwa katika kuzuia ndoto ya maendeleo katika taifa la Kenya.
Sisemi ni mahakama, ninasema wananchi. Question, there are people who go to mahakama to look for, watu wanaenda mahakamani kusikizwa. Katiba inasema lazima wasikizwe. So I plead with the judiciary, for example, to look around and search the, legal minds. But if you go there to stop that item that is good for everybody, you delay development. If I was a judge, I would dismiss them. In fact, I would recommend they are confined in the courtroom downstairs there. In some prefer, we live in these traffic jams with young kids who are breastfeeding. You know, you stay 24 hours on the road. Look at how your kid will look like. And then the beauty of this conversation is this. Many Kenyans have begun seeing what the president is doing. So some of these leaders who have been supporting the president's agenda, kupigia mtu kura ambaye amepinga kujengwa kwa barabara ya Rironi kuleta watu huko Western.
Labda anapinga kwa sababu anajua kwamba miradi iliyotangulia labda haikuweza.
Participation ya nini? Hii barabara inajengwa, unataka public participation, alafu mkae vikao tena mkule mandazi. Alafu mseme tunataka hii haikufaulu, tunataka public participation nyingine ya 3. Na watu wanakwama kwa, but everybody is keen to get home during the holidays. The president is being told you should never even imagine putting up a road. Hiyo barabara, what sort of leaders are we supposed to elect? Leaders who want to confine us to poverty, preach poverty, make us poor, so that they can handle niangusha kura kila siku brings what paying them when the president wants to change that. They have a problem with them. But let me tell you, the people of Kenya, the general electorate, these leaders who they are going to be fixed.
Now coming closer home, Professor, kuna taifa ambalo linajulikana kama Rwanda na kuna swali ambalo nashukuru sana, zero tolerance to corruption. Kenya bado kuna tatizo kuhusu swala la corruption, na vile vile they have performance contracts zinajulikana kama EHIMIGO and national priorities across ministries, but Kenya is filled with fragmented bureaucracy across the central government and county governments. Isn't it our challenge? Yes.
Structural problems. President Ruto is not the first president of Kenya. We have had other presidents. Have a constitutional order. Today, everybody wants to blame the president on the small things. When things go wrong in the police, they say the president. The president doesn't command. There are some decisions that they take, even which the president gets shocks about. If today the president goes and that can be sorted out by President Ruto alone, as his advisor, I think we need a national. We have today. Under the various loopholes that exist, which people exploit even within the constitutional setup to delay development, this national conversation should be taken before the people of Kenya to understand where we can correct that. But if they are satisfied that it can achieve that, it upon himself to start directing who should be arrested. You will say he's interfering, because the president consumes a lot of data and intelligence. He knows who is doing what to do the job. They don't do the job. So therefore, a time has come where we should ask, what is the work of the executive? How far can the executive go? Everything that goes wrong, you blame on the executive. Is constitutional setup going to deliver us from poverty and create a Singapore in Kenya? If it can't, the people of Singapore, we must look at the framework for civil service, the framework for the judiciary, the framework for the executive office of the president, the framework for parliament, to see the Rwanda constitution is different. One of the unfortunate things that you are seeing with President Ruto is that our constitution only gives him a maximum of 10 years. Around
35.
Yes. Now, that's why the president is saying, in our lifetime, because he hopes that even after he leaves his doing, where will our country go? These are the fears. So we need a national conversation. I'm suggesting we get into a serious national conversation. And even President Ruto talking to young kids, putting things in a wheelbarrow to escort people he has built houses for, can do that. For them, that is a demeaning. Hiyo ni kazi ya chini. So, a national conversation will also help us to tell you lies, steal money. Then during the day when the president is visiting some places, they tell him, sisi tunakuunga mkono. But they talk against the president's agenda. How watu wanahitaji president's court? What is critical is we have a duty to promote his agenda and make sure that he improves the quality of life of our people. So, talking about Singapore, and he has not finished with the bottom up. You know, poverty of common sense. Robert, has lesser constitutional constraints to move the country to the next level. Kenya is struggling because it has more constitutional constraints. The president has limits, and that's why I'm
very guided interview, na bila shaka tutachukua mapumziko tena machache. Tukirejea tutakuwa tunaingia sehemu ya mwisho, profesa apate kukamilisha yake. Ni mwaka mmoja tu umebaki, na yeye akiwa mshauri wa rais, bila shaka hatakosa kumwombea kura kutokana na kazi ambayo bosi wake anazidi kufanya. Kwa hivyo tukirejea tutakuwa tunaingia sasa ulingo Wanyonyi kutoka hapa makao make ya makuu, the headquarters yake yakamkuywa. Tunarejea baada ya muda usio mrefu, mtazamaji.